As the 2023 elections get closer, it is tried to bring back to the front burner the critical economic issues that should drive the elections. While this conversation will focus on the economic ideas of the three most popular presidential candidates in Nigeria, we will review their ideas vis-a-vis the current economic realities of the everyday Nigerian. Joining us to speak more on this is public affairs analyst Sumbo Badijoko. He joins us virtually. Hello Sumbo, good to have you join us today.
Good morning. It's good to be here again.
All right, thank you so much. Now, going into the 2023 elections, what are your greatest concerns regarding the economy?
Well, ahead of the election, the economy usually slows down. And the reason is because you have all manner of candidates coming up with various economic agenda and promises. And of course, the business sector, the captain of industry, those who actually run the economy will be kind of skeptical. They will be observing the trend and pattern and see how the candidate that is most likely to win. So until after the election, that is when the economy will begin to peak. And if you observe critically, especially in Nigeria, the election is usually slated for the early part of the year, so that once the election is done over, we know the president-elect. We already know the economic agenda that the so-called president-elect promised the people. So until that is determined, ahead of 2023, you see them in the order of things until the election is done. But when you look at each of the candidates, they seem to be, two of them are clear, they've given us a clear agenda as to what their economic policy will be like. For instance, the PDP candidate is a pure capitalist person and is going to be formulating his economic policy along the capitalist principle. And those who believe in capitalist ideas would be wishing that it comes on board. And the APC man too seems to be a mixed economy. It would treat towards capitalism, but would kind of embark on social welfare package, which is not pure capitalism, but a mix of capitalism and socialism. But the other candidate has not really come out with a clear-cut agenda, but we want to go by the utterances that he has made so far. We would want to say that he's also going to be tweeting towards the capitalist ideology. So when you look at all this, those who are running the economy would be observing them, seeing how they go about their campaign, who are those that are moving with them, who are the captain of industries that are actually supporting their candidature. So those are the kind of hints.
All right. I like that you already said something about, I was going to ask you about this, but you already talked about how that people believe that the three top presidential candidates will probably be friends with the markets, in the sense that people are not afraid of either of them or any of them coming on board. So very quickly, you talked about Atiku Abubakar, who is a capitalist in nature. Do you have concerns about, a capitalist economy?
Even though we know
If you can hear me, Mr. Sumbo, I was asking you what you think about the stance of the PDP presidential candidate, that's the person of Alhaji Atiku.
I was going to candidates wants to take the capitalism that we have in the country to another level. As we speak, we're about 70-75% capitalism.
All right, I guess we're having connection issue right there. But of course, we're speaking with public affairs analyst Sumbo Badijoko. We're looking at the economic blueprint of the top three presidential candidates. We're talking about the APC, the PDP, and the Labour Party. Well, from what we have seen so far, for the PDP, it's looking more capitalist, and we are probably going to see more privatizations. And there are questions about that. Some persons say, when we talk about privatization, we've done that, and we haven't seen the benefit at the end of the day. And there are questions as manifesto. When you embark on this capitalist move, what happens to the poor? What happens to the 15 million Nigerian children who are out of school? And then when we look at the APC presidential candidate, his is a mix of both. On the one side, there is the capitalist move, and on the other hand, there is also the move for, social security. And that probably answers the question of persons who are beginning to ask the PDP presidential candidate about what happened to the poor. And for the Labour Party, well, to a very large extent, he has also talked about moving from a consumption economy to a production economy. And if you can hear me, Mr. Sumbo, I'd like you to, continue that conversation, talking about the PDP presidential candidate preferring capitalism and what you think about it.
Yeah, as I was saying earlier, I said that the PDP presidential candidate wants to move the capitalist policies of the country to another level. As we speak now, the economy is about 70-75% capitalist in orientation. So if he's coming on board wanting to liquidate more of the government assets, it means it's taking us to like 90-95% or probably 100%. No, one, capitalism is good. It's an American system which promotes individual ruggedness, and of course, it depends on how you are able to now bring about idea, put those ideas into operation, and you can go all the way. But when you have massive corruption in place, corruption is one thing that used to mitigate against capitalist idea, and capitalist idea promotes this in a very large volume. So these are things that he would also, if he's going towards capitalism, he needs to put strong institution in place that will check the excesses of those that have these corrupt tendencies. That is what the PDP candidate needs to be looking at right now. He needs to be putting in place machinery. He needs to ensure that we have reforms being carried out in all our institutions, so that all the critical institutions that will oversee his policies will not compromise those policies.
All right, still on the PDP presidential candidates now, some analysts have faulted this capitalist drive. They are saying that this may not benefit the everyday Nigerian, especially saying that there is almost nothing left to privatize and the nation has not benefited from previous privatizations. I'd like you to speak to this. I know you've already shared your own thoughts about his capitalist move, but I'd like you to speak to this.
Yeah, there are still some other assets that are not yet privatized. Some are been privatized to some extent. But the issue is always about the NNPC, as well as the assets of the NNPC. As we speak, the NNPC is a private company, but government still hold all the shares. So you need to, it would want to maybe in an aggressive manner sell out the share equity of the NNPC to private individuals who will now be the one to form the board and of course be in charge of running the companies. So he has spoken about that, and he seems to be very serious about it. But in all, there is this subsidy regime that must go. And from the utterances of all the major candidates, there is none of them that will come aboard that will not put an end to the subsidy regime. Now, the subsidy regime will have an immediate shock on the people because there is no amount of palliative that you may want to put. The people will have to feel the heat before the palliative measure would be able to cushion the effects. So that means whichever of them that wins the election comes up will have to deal with the subsidy issue, because we cannot continue to import petroleum products, and we cannot continue to not really tap into the value chain of the crude that we produce. So these are going to be greeted by critical decisions. And of course, we need to really combat head-on the issue of oil theft. So each of them will make sure that they will have to combat that. As I said, the PDP candidate to look at the corruption index.
All right, very quickly now, let's look at Obi. He's mulling over production as against consumption, talking about moving Nigeria to production economy. How achievable is this? Talk to us about this, and probably what are the likely challenges on this path?
Well, for that, the Labour candidate seems to be the one talking about that. Yes, it's a good thing for us as a nation, putting into consideration our population of over 200 million. putting into consideration of our human and natural resources. But for that to be achieved, there has to be an aggressive investment in the infrastructure. We have infrastructural deficits, and without that being bridged, it will be very difficult for us to be a productive economy. Yes, we are producing some things, but at the primary scale level, we need to convert those resources that we have. We need to really move along the value chain of those resources so that they will be having more of about 70 to 80% local content. That is when our economy will be viable. That is when our currency will be more valuable. So that's how the Labour Party candidate would need to be thinking of how it will put power in place, how it will improve on the rail network, how it will ensure that the rules are fixed. And we will also have to fight corruption, because both of them, all of them would need to do something serious about the issue of corruption so that the money they put into any critical sector does not go into private pockets.
All right, let's close on Tinubu now. Let's have your thoughts on his economic solutions. If you can hear me, Mr. Sumba, I'd like you to land on that so we can close this conversation. All right, I think we'll just have to end it there. Thank you so much, Sumba Badejoko, for joining us on the show and for sharing your thoughts with us.
You need to first of all go back to the basics, look at the agricultural sector. What are the products that we are making? I mean, what are the...
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Sumba Badejoko. I think we'll have to leave it there. Thanks for sharing your thoughts with us. We'll take a break now. When we come back, we have more conversations for you on the show today. This is Business Breakfast. Stay with us. We'll be right back.